Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us today at the 12th CCG VIP Luncheon. The CCG VIP Luncheon series is initiated and hosted by Center for China and Globalization, CCG. The event aims to share China's latest developments with embassies in China, international organizations, Chamber of Commerce, multinational corporations, and academic experts. It is a high-end platform for international exchanges, providing insights into China's development and exploring global cooperation opportunities. Today's launching will center on the multidimensional impacts of global trade uncertainty. We will explore related issues and conduct the analysis together. We are honored to have two distinguished speakers who will share the insights and opinions with us. First, please allow me to introduce our speakers for today. They are Mr. Cui Fan, professor at the School of International Trade and Economics, University of International Business, CCG Non-Resident Senior Fellow. Mr. Ma Jianchun, chairman of CWTO, former Director General of the Department of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Commerce, CCG Non-Resident Senior Fellow. Let's welcome the two speakers with a warm round of applause. Before we start, let's take a moment to acknowledge some of our special guests and the VIPs who are here. We have invited diplomats from 24 countries, including 13 ambassadors, along with representatives from international organizations, business councils, enterprises, and the media. They are Ambassador of Australia, Ambassador of Barbados, Ambassador of Belgium, Ambassador of the EU, Ambassador of Finland, Ambassador of Iceland, Ambassador of Israel, Ambassador of Italy, Ambassador of Luxembourg, Ambassador of New Zealand, Ambassador of Norway, Ambassador of Portugal, Ambassador of Romania. We also have diplomats from various embassies. They are Embassy of Canada, Embassy of Croatia, Embassy of Germany, Embassy of Japan, Embassy of India, Embassy of Indonesia, Embassy of Pakistan, Embassy of Poland, Embassy of South Africa, Embassy of Singapore, Embassy of Switzerland. And we have international organizations and the Business Council. They are Alliance of Global Talent Organizations, Environmental Defense Fund China, International Bamboo and Rattan Organizations, OECD, Danish Chamber of Commerce in China, European Union Chamber of Commerce in China, JETRO. We also have representatives from domestic and international enterprises. They are Airbus China, BASF, Barcelona Advisory, Bayer China, BMW China, Eni China, Fuliancheng Tianjin Culture Arts Company, GE Aerospace Greater China, KKR, Qualcomm China, Sun Hong Kai Properties, Trina Solar, United Family Healthcare. We also have media from international medias. They are CGTN, Global Times, Kyodo News. Today we are so honored to also have invited the officials from MFA and MOVCOM China. On behalf of CCG, I extend a sincere welcome and heartfelt thanks to all of the experts and our guests today. Now, let's welcome Dr. Huiyao Wang, the founder of Center for China and Globalization, to deliver his speech. Thank you, Henry.
Okay. Distinguished ambassadors, Your Excellencies, and also representatives from different embassies, consulars, and deputy heads of missions. Of course, we have also a big number of multinational organizations, and of course also from think tank and the association, chambers, and also a representative from around the world to this 12th edition of CCG VIP Luncheon. We have launched this CCG Luncheon series about a year ago, and has been really, this is the 12th edition. And but we know we are now in a very critical time and very challenging and stimulating time. So this is really occasion that we hope this section of our luncheon would be really a good occasions to share ideas, also stimulate discussions, and hear the experts' opinions, and of course, we want to get also feedback from our participants of this very interesting launching, and hear our views on how we can work together on this at this difficult, challenging time. So we are very honored actually today have invited two very senior experts and to talk about these issues. We know that we're having a tariff, almost trade war around the world going on right now, and how we cope with that, how we meet the challenges of this very big uncertainty, not only just for China, but for the world as well, is very, very important issue. So how we can really have a better understanding of that, and how we can really, for both US and China, and of course, all the other major economies, that we can really, how we can work together and promote a common understanding and minimize the differences, is really the purpose of this launching as well. So we are very honored to have our two experts to join us just to kick off this event. First, I would like to invite President Ma Jianchun, so to be on the stage and sit on the chair here. Mr. Ma Jianchun is the president of China World Trade Organization, World Trade Organization Research Association under the Ministry of Commerce. So, of course, after his graduate university, he has worked in the MOFCOM for over 4 decades, and he also worked in the Policy Research Office, the Policy System Department, and also Department of the E-commerce. And also, he was the Director General of Foreign Affairs Department at MOFCOM, and also participate in the research work of China foreign trade and opening up. So he has a lot of experience. Actually, in the 1990s, his book, Towards an Open Economy, was really won a very good 子节 International Trade Book Award. So his recent publication include China, Africa Economy, and China, and also on the 20th Congress of Communist Party. After that, he published another book. He was ambassador, also Chinese ambassador to Gambia. So Ambassador Ma has a lot of experience and a lot of work experience in the Ministry of Commerce, and of course dealing with all the different countries in the world. And he has also, of course, position in the Jordan, in also Arab of Egypt, and he has a lot of experience. Now he has become the president of China WTO Association, I think since the beginning of this year, and so it's really honor to welcome Ambassador Ma. Why don't you come up and sit here as well? So next speaker I would like to introduce is we have another well-known expert, Professor Cui Fan. He's a CCG non-resident senior fellow. Of course, same is for. You sit in the middle, yeah. And also, Ambassador Ma is also a CCG non-resident senior fellow. And of course, Professor Cui is the well-known international trade expert. He's the International Trade, School of International Trade and Economies of University of International Business and Economies. And also he's the Deputy General Secretary of Director of Research, China Society for WTO Society as well. And of course, he has done many research publications, teaching on China. And he has also both be really a good expert, as also a visiting fellow at the London School of Economics, and holds a BA and MBA, of course, from UIBE, and also has a PhD as well. So I would like to also invite Professor Trey to come up as well, so we can start our discussion today. But first, I would like to have Ambassador Ma to give us his view of what are the current situation, and then after that we have a Professor Trey to give his analysis of the current situation that we're having, and after that we open to the participants, but also maybe we have also MOVCON officials here. Maybe they could join us later also. So it would be really great occasion to have these timely exchanges with all of us. We also have a friend from U.S. I see that Deborah, former USTR official, is also with us, and of course we have many distinguished friends here. So, Ambassador Ma, please.
President Huiyao, Excellencies, dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's my great pleasure to be here to share with you about some information and some ideas regarding to the current situation in the world trade. So before I talking about my view, I would like to introduce something about the society I'm working for, the China Society for the World Trade Organization study. It's like a think tank, affiliated to the Ministry of Commerce. So our society formed by some retired government officials and some scholars and some experts. We have this platform to provide a chance for our friends to have a discussion, and also we have some suggestions to the government, to our enterprises. Okay, so this is some basic information about our society, China Society for World Trade Organization study. Yeah. So today, my talking is, mainly is on this topic. I think the interests of all economies, in the world can only be protected by the preservation of the multilateral trading system. This year we see many things, the first quarter of this year. So especially since the Trump administration in the United States, they took office this year, it has frequently used the tariff tools under the banner of America First, emphasizing the need to reshape the international trade pattern through unilateralism and trade protectionism. In particular, the so-called reciprocal tariff. This policy, recently introduced by the United States, it has imposed the tariffs on varying degrees on 185 trading partners. So this unilateralist behavior has undermined the authority of the WTO multilateral trading system, impacted the multilateral trading system with the WTO at its core, and seriously affected the normal development of the international trade. So we all know the theory of the comparative advantage in the theory of the international trade. I don't want to explain this theory at here, because all of us know this kind of trade theory. I remember when I participated in the work of the economic system reform in the 1980. At that time, I was engaged in the work. I worked in the Ministry of Foreign Trade in the system reform office. So at that time, we started to learn this theory, and we also, learned, and according to this theory, China continued to deepen the system reform, moved closer and closer, and met to the requirements of the GATT, General Agreement of Tariffs on Tariffs and Trade, at that time GATT, and later the WTO. So we tried to move us closer to this standard, to this requirement, and finally China accessed to the World Trade Organization. Now we found the countries that have told us those theories and proposals in the past. Now they have changed. They have changed their approach. So, which is, this is the, contrary to the theory of the comparative advantage, which is a policy. Now this is policy oriented to the anti-globalization. What should we do in this case? Of course, many economies have to be involved in unilateral negotiations with the United States. They have to negotiate with the United States. And some people also suggest China, please go to do something. Some friends talk to me. Maybe since most of the economies, most of the countries now would like to see the play between the two majors. But I think this is not things just happen between our two countries. Just not two countries. This is a problem, this is a question that if we want to uphold the multilateralism or not, if we just be involved in the individual discussion, individual negotiations, so how about the WTO, the multilateralism, the principles, the rules for the world trade, So we should firmly uphold this multilateral trading system with the WTO at its core. As the global organization of the international trade governance, the core objective of the WTO is to form a unified set of rules and trade systems in the world, and reducing tariffs and trade barriers is one of the important missions. At present, the world's major economies have joined in the WTO. The WTO has 166 members, and 20 countries are applying to join the WTO. And the trade volume between WTO members accounts for 98% of the global trade volume. So at present, the commodity tariff rates formed among the various WTO parties reached by all the parties in accordance with their respective levels of the economic development. In accordance with the industrial competitiveness and market openness, according to this, they negotiated their tariff rates when they joined in the WTO. Those tariff rates are reciprocal adjustments and concessions made by all parties in accordance with their own development needs and international responsibilities in order to achieve mutual benefits and win-win results. Therefore, if we say reciprocity, this is a kind of reciprocity because it basically reflects the interests and the demands of all parties. If a trade conflict arises between members, it should be resolved under the WTO dispute settlement mechanism. However, the role of the WTO is being challenged. Some people say that the era of the WTO may be over. Because the United States, the world's largest economy, is no longer essentially bound by the WTO. So what will be the consequences of the United States no longer being bound by the WTO? Such unilateral policy and practice of the United States will seriously affect the confidence of all countries, all economies in the multilateral system, and will lead to move violation of WTO rules in the future. So our society, when we made a study, when we have a discussion, we are worried about the world trade could slide into the law of jungle. At present, some WTO members, some of the WTO members, when they facing Trump administration's tariffs, some of the WTO members have admitted defeat in response to Trump tariffs policy because their economic volume are relatively small, and they are unable to resist. Some WTO members have been cautious in dealing with the situation and have expressed a tough attitude in words, tough attitude. But they have been more cautious or prudent in their actual actions. It can be seen that among the WTO members, there is a feeling of fearing of Trump's tariffs, a feeling of fear. So most of the WTO members do not agree with the US approach, but they do not dare to act against the United States because the United States is relatively powerful. China's economy is large and resilient, with a strong manufacturing sector, the domestic market that has the ability to absorb. China could respond to the challenge of external economic bullying. So China is in a relatively strong position to cope with some other small and medium-sized economy, which is why we saw that the Chinese government can make tough fight when the United States impose tariffs and the so-called reciprocal tariffs on China. But how will those small and medium-sized economy respond? If it doesn't have the strength to resist the tariff pressures, in Trump's words, you don't have a card, then you are forced to accept Trump's tariff demands or whatever else conditions he wants. Maybe he also wants another conditions following up the tariffs. If this model is replicated, what will the rules of the international trade look like in the future? It is likely to slide into a law of jungle. This is we are worried. This is not this time not just the trade conflict between China, United States, not like this. This show, we are now facing another problem. That how about our multilateralism? So the history has shown that the preservation of the multilateral trading system is more important for small and medium-sized economies. China resolutely opposed the unilateral tariff policy. Of course, this is for protect China's own interests, but also for the sake of upholding the multilateral trading rules with the WTO at its core. And through the WTO rules, it will form a kind of protection for all the WTO members, especially those developing economies. Because if a major country applies the law of jungle and practice unilateralism, the world's small and medium-sized economy will suffer even more danger. It will be recalled that the successful conclusion, so that means we remember the conclusion of the Uruguay round, the establishment of the World Trade Organization. The greatest achievement of this was the creation of a set of rules that would enable all members to participate equally in global trade. Under the current circumstance, we believe that it is very important for China, for other members of the WTO, we unite more closely, explore more effective ways of cooperation, and make every effort to safeguard the rule-based multilateral trading system, and jointly safeguard the authority and the stable operation of the multilateral trading system, so that all economies in the world can benefit from economic globalization. China is not only protect our own interests. China now is also play an active role in protecting the multilateralism, protecting WTO, protecting the development of the economy, the international global economy development. Recently, China Society for World Trade Organization studies, we invited some experts and scholars to discuss how to strengthen cooperation among WTO members in the face of today's situation. We also have some other chances to exchange our ideas with our dear friends. Just before yesterday, I have a very nice talking with Ambassador His Excellency this week. We had a good talk, to exchange our views. So we also learn from other friends, from your opinion. And some of the experts, we suggested, we should suggest the World Trade Organization members work together to uphold the rules and the procedures of the WTO. Also WTO, just as Director General of WTO, Madam Evela said, the WTO is an important platform for dialogue, and it is essential to solve problems within the framework of cooperation. So, we suggest that we should make use of this platform provided by the WTO. We use the platform, we use the expertise and the legitimacy provided by WTO to conduct dialogues, consultation, and negotiation as much as possible. and strive to bring trade disputes into this framework of WTO. Try to find a settlement, not only just individual talking from this country to that country. We have this platform already, the dispute settlement mechanism, okay? So, okay, recently, China, we went to the WTO on April. We went to WTO when we were imposed some tariffs by United States. We went to WTO. And also, on April 10th, on the very important meeting, the trade, Good Trade Committee meeting, China raised a suggestion, and we got some support from other WTO members. There are some also, also some other members expressed their, unsatisfaction and sued the United States in the World Trade Organization, for example, Canada. Okay, I think this is very good. We should work together. We should work hard to bring these trade disputes into the dispute settlement mechanism of the WTO, which is the best effort to maintain the status of the WTO. Of course, WTO, because of the new situation, the new development, the WTO, the World Trade Organization, also need to be reformed. We can work together, try to find another good way to push the WTO go further forward. If we don't use this kind of platform, we don't support the WTO, so we will lose the best platform, best ways for the global economic development. This is my opinion, some of you of mine. Thank you very much. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, President Ma. I think you outlined the importance of WTO and multilateral system. It does has a challenge for all of us if we have a system there for after the Bretton Woods system, basically GATT and then WTO, and if we all abandon that's really become a very challenging situation for all of us. So I think it's important that we. China being the largest trading nation, and of course with EU, with many others, how we can sustain that, including US. So it's a question that needs to be addressed, I think, sooner or later. So I think given the time, I would like to ask Professor Trey to give some his comments. Maybe we'll have some, maybe 8-10 minutes, but then I will open up for the audience participants, and also I would like to seek some comments from the representative of the ministry here, so that we can really have this good discussion. Professor Trey, please.
Thank you very much, Huiyao, for inviting me here, and thank you all excellencies, ambassadors, and respected diplomats. It's a very great honor for me to be able to present it here. What I'm going to talk is totally on behalf of myself. I'm a professor affiliated with the University of International Business and Economics, but what I'm going to say is has nothing to do with the university I'm working for or any other organizations I'm affiliated. It's totally personal point of view. Just like I totally agree with Ambassador Ma in the point that the retaliation tariff used by China is not only to protect the development interest of China, but also to protect the basic principle and the rules of the multilateral trading system. What we are expecting is order, the order of international trade. I think most countries, they would like to have this order, okay, in this world market. Currently, in this world market, totally unpredictable. We don't know what will happen tomorrow. And all the businessmen, they are very worried about that. So we want to, okay, restore the order of international trade. Okay, we are working for that point. And if we look at the 3 rounds of a retaliation tariff imposed by China, you can see actually the main point of China is to try to, say no to American administration and try to protect the order of international trade. When China imposed the first round of a retaliation tariff, 34% of tariff rate to all the American goods, I think most people, including American administration, they are a little bit surprised how China is so tough at this moment. We just want to show to all the other countries, okay, we are the largest trading state in the world. If China cannot say no, all the other countries, I think, you will have a weaker position in your bilateral negotiation. And in the second round of retaliation, we increase the tariff rate from 34% to 84%. I found that President Trump maybe was a little bit angry about that. How can they so tough? But then we can see that they increased the so-called reciprocal tariff rate from 84% to 125%, but in the meantime, they decreased the tariff rate for a lot of countries to the level of 10%. Actually, China's retaliation has disrupted the whole plan of this so-called the reciprocal tariff. Before the 2nd of April, the only country suffered from the discriminatory tariff from the United States was China. After the 2nd of April, a lot of countries suffered from this discriminatory tariff from the United States. But then, after this retaliation process, many countries, they are facing a low tariff rate to a uniform level of 10%. But it's not the end of story, because you will have a lot of negotiations. Some countries' tariff will maybe go up, some countries will go down. So basically, United States has destroyed the non-discriminatory principle of the World Trade Organization totally. But then, after this retaliation, we can see that the whole plan of the reciprocal tariff has already been disrupted. The original plan of them is to charge about $600 billion every year by tariff revenue. But now, I think at most, they can have $300 billion, okay? They have lost a lot of negotiation chips, bargaining chips. Because, for example, for Vietnam, first they faced this 46% of tariff rate. Now it's 10%. Okay, if they have 46% tariff rate, we know that they said, the United States has said that they will push other countries to increase tariff rate against China. They have a lot of negotiation, bargaining chips to push other countries, to put more pressures to other countries, to also impose discriminatory tariff against China. But now, a lot of these bargaining chips is gone. The negotiation position of Vietnam, for example, okay, start from 46% now, the negotiation status quo position now is 10%. They have a better negotiation position. I think this applies to a lot of other countries. You face less pressure. And the factories invested by China in the southeastern countries, they have a better situation now. So I think the retaliation of the Chinese government has helped us to face a little bit better situation now. When you increase the tariff rate against China from 84% to 125%, actually the applied tariff rate was changed from 126% to 167%, because we also have this other 301 tariff rate and affinity tariff rate or something like that. Okay, this difference has no much influence on China. But the decrease of the tariff rate for other countries have a good influence to China. Okay, so I think China has firmly said no to the United States. I think for other countries, if you don't say no, then in the next stage of bilateral negotiation, you will face more pressure. So we know that the United States, they ask other countries to improve tariff rate against China. For example, the so-called Fortress in North America, something like that. But fortunately, since the start of the new administration of United States, I found that no one country has imposed new discriminatory tariff against China. Now, the world trading system, yes, it's weak, but except United States, all the other countries have still applied the MFN tariff with each other. The world trading system is still there. WTO is still alive. So I think the next step, there will be a lot of bilateral negotiation between United States and all the countries. In the negotiation, maybe they will ask for a lot of requirements, which is difficult to accept. For China, I think we are watching all these negotiations. I think it's totally the right of each country to do retaliation or do negotiation. Every country has its own situation. You have this choice. But my suggestion is that in all these bilateral negotiations, we need to take care of WTO rules. We need to remember that if we give up WTO basic principle, most favored nation article, non-discriminatory principle and rules, then in the future, if the United States impose unreasonable tariff on you, you will have no WTO to resort to. So we need to keep these principles and rules and keep WTO alive. It's for the interest for all of us. So in the negotiation, when the United States ask us to do some kind of a discriminatory action, we should say no. Okay, for China, I think we have some kind of a mechanism. For example, we have a anti-discrimination investigation mechanism. For all the countries, including the United States, China, if face some discriminatory tariff, we will firmly say no. We will retaliate immediately, or will launch this anti-discrimination investigation mechanism immediately. Okay, so I think my point is totally the same as that of Ambassador Ma. We need to safeguard WTO to help ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Cui, for your very concise but very vivid demonstration of the pros and cons of this trade war, which is unfriendly to majority of the country. I know that U.S. trade account about 13% of the global trade. So the 87% of us, all of us, what should we do? You know, we should let this 13% totally disrupt everyone. So I think it's a great question. You know, he raised, Professor Cui raised that, you know, as Ambassador Ma was saying, how we can really protect ourselves. 83% of the global trade, and can we sustain momentum of the WTO and you know, free trade, which is the bedrock of the prosperity and stability we had today. So that's a very interesting question. I think probably, you know, for the new administration of Trump, takes time. You know, there's a lot of changing things going on. For example, one thing I noticed is that U.S. is really a little bit obsessed with this merchandise trade. They said they insist they had a big deficit on the merchandise of the goods trade. But on the service trade, U.S. has $1 trillion of service trade and have 300 billion surplus. That is not counted. They have a big surplus with China on the service trade. Another thing is the U.S. has the biggest investment draw to the of the world. Everybody all invest in the U.S. So the stock market is hitting all-time high. And also U.S. is still 95% of international trade was settled by the U.S. dollars. And U.S. has a big premium on that. And further, you know, U.S. is harvesting all the talents. You know, have a huge talent surplus. You know, they have a 50 best university in the world, and all the global talent goes to the United States. And 30% of the AI talents in the United States coming from China. So you see, you know, you just can't get everywhere dominant. I think many years ago, U.S. Has deliberated to get out of the heavy industry because they think it's labor intensive, it's polluting, it's environmental unfriendly, and it's not worthwhile for no hard labor wants to do that. And then they're getting into high tech, getting into digital, getting into the AI, getting into crypto and those high-end industries. So I think U.S. is winning almost every front, but except it's goods trade. So I think probably we should think another way how we can really get out of this predicament and dilemma we have right now. And first, I think China and the U.S. has a lot of things to talk. We have ambassador in Washington, but we don't have an American ambassador in Beijing. Ambassador Palourde hasn't come yet. We really hope that he can come as soon as possible. And let's engage in dialogues. And engage in dialogues, but also that President Trump said there's a fentanyl that can be talked, and China has done a lot of things on fentanyl. The former Assistant Secretary of State of Biden administration wrote an op-ed in the New York Times recently. He said, you know, all the discussion with China and the Biden administration on fentanyl was very smooth. Of course, more can be done, but there's really a lot of progress being made. Homeland Security officials, Minister of Public Security officials talked many times. And the death rate of fentanyl 2024 in the United States dropped to 27%. Huge drop because China's contribution. So I think, you know, things can be done. And if that is really reached, there's a 20% tariff can be canceled right there. And then the other thing I think President Trump realized, also, you know, you talk about this 125%, then he just, you know, get relieved of all the Apple phones and computers. 70% of the computers are made in China. 90% of Apple phones made in China. If you're talking about adding tariff, it's basically hurting all those U.S. companies. And also we talk about the Tesla. Half of Tesla car coming out of China. I say today, President Trump is relaxed and possible on auto parts tariffs. So after calculation, they realize they're going to hurt themselves too. So, and Walmart used to purchase 80% of the supplies from China, now 60%. So you're going to see the stock supermarket getting all the price high. So I think it doesn't make sense. That's why I think we have this discussion, and we hope that we can really get two sides to talk and really sit down and then talk. And also, I think the rest of the world should also think that, as I agree with Professor Tree, China is fighting for the world. Because of China fighting, say President Trump said, okay, forget about the rest of the world. Let's focus on China. But not really. China's probably saved the world of a higher tariff, but all the other countries should also support China for these justified efforts. So I think, it's really important that we have this great discussion. Thank you, Director General Chen. I know you're from the WTO Department of MOVCOM, and which added a very good supplementary comments to our very stimulating discussion. Now I'd like to open the floor for our dear participants, ambassadors, the Counselor of Commerce, and of course all the multinational and media friends. So who has the question for all of us, and also Director General Chen? Yes. Yes, I know the ambassador from Romania. Yeah, please.
Thank you very much, Henry. Also, thank you very much to all the speakers, guests, special guests for these presentations. I followed WTO developments in the last 20 years. I share your assessment and your conclusions about the importance of the multilateral trading system anchored in the WTO. You mentioned that there will be no rule-based international trade order without the multilateral trading system and without WTO. That's most likely sure. We can see today we are facing a acute, crisis, a deep crisis, right, of the multilateral trading system. So my question is, indeed, we have to do something to revive, to somehow reform the WTO. The question is, and let's be honest here, because we know very well the WTO is facing some problems, has facing some problems for a long time. It's not only now. Now we are indeed in a very deep crisis, but we know very well that the last probably 5, 6, or even more ministerial conference not delivered, results. So we have two issues here. So we have, first of all, we have to update, as we say in the EU, update the rule book of the WTO, and I think also we have to, to come with new disciplines, because the technology, the progress we saw and we are achieving in different areas which were not initially covered by the WTO should be addressed properly today. And also I think extremely important is in the reform of the WTO is the enforceability of the system. I think this is the key issue. Okay. I think Ambassador Ma mentioned this. This is the key issue of the multilateral trading system anchored in the WTO. Why? Because without the enforceability, and we saw, without an appellate body, there is no, possibility to keep the system in place and to keep it relevant. Okay. And also I think that so we have to move we have to move somehow from this ancient paradigm about agriculture, right, development, which were basically 80% of the discussions in the WTO in the last 10, maybe 15, 20 years. We have to move to address the new areas. So okay. That means we need a comprehensive and a new approach on this WTO and on the disciplines. Okay. And that means not only the functions but also the areas. And when I say areas, I'm talking about, you know, the new disciplines or the new areas like e-commerce, like environment, but also we need to address properly the subsidies and the industrial subsidies, transparency, notifications. These are key to organize or to, you know, to give a chance, at least, to give a chance to the WTO to be relevant. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ambassador from Romania. So I'm going to have a few more questions. Okay, Ambassador from Norway, yes. Maybe you just mention your name, and also Ambassador from EU, Ambassador from Luxembourg, yes.
Yeah, I'm Weber Dusvik, Ambassador of Norway to China. No, thank you very much for the invitation. And for, you know, you see the title, and if we had gone back 12 months, we would have thought, is that really interesting? But then we look at it now, unfortunately, it's extremely relevant, extremely interesting. And of course, for a small open economy like Norway, it is very clear that tariffs and the kind of measures that are being taken now are not good for us. We don't think it's good for the world economy. And tariffs, counter-tariffs, produce inefficiencies and externalities to our economies that we don't need. And then the answer to that, of course, partially is what Dan talks about, reform of the WTO. But as we all know who have worked with the WTO questions, that's an extremely long-term process. It takes a few decades every time you try to reform the structures. That work has to continue. But I think it's also important, all the people that want to support global production chains today, we also can do, we need to do what we can do right now to do it better. Because it's coming under question, of course, from the US, but also from some other countries as well. And then that's about, and Dan talked about these things as well, we can be more transparent when it comes to our industrial policies and subsidies, the role of state-owned enterprises in the economy. We can all be also more transparent and honest when it comes to different kinds of risk reduction activities, things we do for security. Be clear about what is actually security and what is more protectionist, and do it better. And then I have a question for the professor and the ambassador, who had the pleasure of meeting earlier this week as well. Maybe also for the DG if he wants to answer it. But could it be that part of the response from China's side would be an opening up, not just opening up of China as an investment destination, but also as an import destination? Because if you do a large-scale stimulus of the internal economy, you could also open up new market opportunities for many other countries that are being affected by tariffs around the world, and not least in your region.
Okay, good. I think I'm sure that they will answer you later. But just first, I think China has abandoned the tariff for 43 in these development countries. Zero tariff come to China. Probably as one section. So, Ambassador from Europe, Mr. Toledo, yes. 在这里跟欧盟大使那个话筒。
Thank you, Henry, and thank you to Professor Chui and Ambassador Ma. I can perfectly agree with the important centrality of the rule-based WTO trading order. You know that the European Union supports and will support this rule-based order. I also agree with both the Ambassador of Romania and the Ambassador of Norway that there are issues that have to be fixed. It has been a long time since the last reform, and the problem is that, well, it seems that, at least for the time being, the United States has, by all practical purposes, abandoned also. I say also because they are withdrawing from so many things, the WTO. So this reform will have to be about 87% of global trade, and we probably will not count on the US for the next years. But I have two questions. One is for Professor Chui. How do you link Chinese retaliation to the US retaliation, etc., to the fact that President Trump, let's say, cancelled the reciprocal tariffs, except the 10%, to everyone else. What is the mechanism, the cause-effect mechanism of that? Because, well, I think that the markets forced him to do that. He was getting calls from his friends, and he was watching the market tank, and it was more of a face-saving device to do it for everyone except for China, because China, let's say, is there is a consensus in the U.S. about China, and this would not be unpopular. Although I believe it is unsustainable. I just read today that China has banned the import of Boeing planes and parts for Boeing planes. I mean, what is going to happen? They're going to ground all Boeing planes flying in China? I mean, this is unsustainable. And then my next question is for Ambassador Ma, but also to Professor Chui, because this is unsustainable. But at the same time, there is, apart from the trade war, there is a face-saving war. Who blinks first? President Xi and the Chinese government say, we are ready to take a call, but we are not going to call. And the Trump administration say, we are not interested, we are not calling. If they want to call, we'll see. So, I mean, day after day, until somebody calls, of course. Do you think the Chinese government should call, or the pride should prevail, and then we are all, because we are all affected by that. Imagine the European companies that are manufacturing in China but importing components or materials from the US. I mean, this is very bad for everyone. Thank you.
Okay, maybe we'll start one round of discussion. So, Ambassador Ma, take a mic on this, and then briefly we'll have a second round. But let's start with the first round. Yeah.
So I thank you for your question. So I learned the first question is about the reform of the WTO. So really, in the past decades, last years, several years, we have many discussions about the WTO's reform. So mainly on the efficiency of the decision making, or some also some other problems on the disputes settlement mechanism. So really, these problems we need to talk about because of the fast development of the world economy. Many aspects related to the trade issues, not only just the trade, not only just the tariffs. So for this, we should have some consensus. But because of the level, economic development level varies in between the members of the WTO, so people has the different ideas, different opinions. That's reasonable. That's reasonable. We accept this kind of situation, this reality. So we should. We always talk about this, that we should have more consensus to push forward the reform of the WTO. Now the question is this. Now the point is, if some of the WTO members want to abandon this system, that the reform is not another. It's not a question for WTO. So we should, firstly, we should uphold the principle of this multilateralism to safeguard the WTO's functions. Then we try to find the way to solve the problem. I think this is the basic ground for the WTO's reform. Thank you.
Professor Tree? Yeah.
We have very good questions. The first about the WTO reform. Yes, we should do reform. China actually, I think the Chinese government has shown the position that we would like to actively involved in the reform of WTO. For example, the e-commerce issue. China has actively involved in the e-commerce negotiation, right? And we are a party of the I think maybe it's a plurilateral arrangement of this e-commerce negotiation going on, and China is a part of that. And China, I think, China is totally open to the other issues, for example, environment. I think in the plastic issue, China is also a very active member of that negotiation. And we are also open to other topics, just like subsidy, industry policy, and all these issues. One point I would like to remind all of us is that you can say that China is trying to get into CPTPP, right? WTO there's no rules on, for example, state-owned enterprises. In CPTPP, there's a single chapter for state-owned enterprises. That's discipline to SOEs, okay? China is trying to get into that and accept that kind of discipline. And also there are some kind of more restrictive rules on subsidies in CPTPP, okay? China is want to get into that. As long as the rules is written clearly, no problem, okay? We can negotiate. Maybe we will have some negotiate on some exceptions or something like that, but all on the paper, okay? We can stick with all these rules. There's no problem for us to negotiate on subsidy. We have our position on subsidy as well. For example, non-actional subsidy, the green subsidy. We want there's some rule on green subsidy, okay? Because we are facing the global issue, climate change, okay? Subsidy sometimes can do good things, okay? There are also a lot of things in the CAP, Comprehensive Agreement on Investment, between China and the EU, right? There we have accepted a lot of things in there, right? We have now actually many rules in CPTPP and the CAI. At the moment in China, we actually have already started to try all these rules in Shanghai and in Shenzhen and in all these cities, because we think that those kind of rules, they are reasonable, okay? So there's no problem for China to join the reform of WTO. We are happy to reform WTO to make it better. In the meantime, I think that even if we have a new world trading system, even the existing WTO is gone, we have a new system. In this new system, some rules should be still there. For example, non-discrimination. For example, committed tariff rate, okay? Any bilateral trade agreement should have those kind of rules as well. If you cannot treat each other on the basis of non-discrimination, how can this agreement can be a friendly agreement, okay? So now, when we say we safeguard the basic principle and rules of WTO, we mainly point to the rules of non-discrimination on the committed tariff rate. Okay? And in the meantime, for China, yes, we are opening. We are doing more opening. Because when we are doing more opening, we will have more bargaining chips with the United States, actually. We have this kind of, for example, the recent expansion of the opening in the trading services, in the value-added telecommunication, in the area of education, in the area of hospitals. We are expanding our opening areas. Okay, and in some other questions, for example, the link between the decrease of the tariff rate with the China's retaliation, you can see that. I think the market, the force of the market is an important reason, of course, but it's also linked with China's retaliation, I think, because this retaliation, this action taken by Donald Trump include two parts. One, increase the tariff rate of China, but increase the tariff rate of China, he knows that has no much emotional impact on China. So in the meantime, he said, okay, I decrease the tariff rate to other countries. Okay, I would like to isolate you. Okay, this is his point. So I think the strong position of China has also some contribution to this decrease of his tariff rate to other countries. Okay, maybe there are complex factors, but I think this is one of the factors. Okay, to let him to change the position a little bit, because actually this new position is totally different from his original plan, I think. Okay. Why do we call this reciprocal tariff? He would like to treat each person differently. So the uniform 10% tariff rate, I don't think it's his original plan. Okay, so and another point, what's the next step? Okay, yeah, what's the next step? The similar question raised by His Excellency Ambassador Bergen, he asked me just now, is China safe or not? Of course China is safe. When we are talking about the safety and the danger, when it's time to talk about the danger and the safety, it's not the country who can print money who is safe. It's a country with the production capacity and the materials and all the things and the solid things who is more safe. Because this morning I viewed a video by the lady, spokeswoman lady of the White House. He said that it's not the United States who need other countries. It's other countries who need United States because they have consumers. And in this instance, he said that China and other countries who need the money of the United States, the printed money, and we need them. If actually the reason of the imbalance of trade is because they have the privilege to print money. In the last year, the deficit, the government deficit of the United States was 1.83 trillion, okay? And the deficit ratio was about 63% or something like that. Okay, if they can cut half of the deficit, then they can save about 900 billion money, okay? And if they consume 900 billion money less, they don't have trade deficit, okay? But the reason that they have a deficit is because they have the privilege to print money to buy things. So if they isolate China, they face other countries, the trade imbalance cannot be solved, okay? Then you will have more surplus. They will have a similar deficit as well. and then they will push you further, okay? Because they always criticize other people, they don't point to themselves. So I think China is safe, totally safe, okay? Don't worry too much about us. So for the next step, who will blink? Actually, in China we have old saying, 解铃还须系铃人. Who created the problems should do first to solve the problem, okay? So I think we are waiting because it's not a good time to negotiate. The United States say that they are organizing other people to isolate China. So they are going to negotiate with other people. So we will have to just wait and see. So the daily communication channel, I think it's open. I think we have ambassador there, they have ambassador here, no problem. Yeah. But oh yeah, maybe some representatives there, okay. But then for this official negotiation, we are open, the door is open. I think China is totally open to the negotiation. I think finally we will negotiate. But I don't think this is a good time. We don't need to call. We will wait and see what will happen. And maybe 1 month later, they don't have things in the store market, and the price there is going up, and I don't know. We will have to see what will happen. Maybe they will organize other people to increase tariff rate against China. China will cope with that kind of situation. Okay, we are quite busy at the moment. We will wait and see. Thank you.
Okay, great. Just briefly to add, I think on the reform of the WTO, Pascalami was in my office just not too long ago. He actually proposed, shall we have a WTO -1 maybe for the time being? And I was at the WTO last September for the WTO Public Forum, and I had invited the president of the Peterson Institute, and Adam Posen was saying, please go ahead, China, EU, other countries, Japan, Canada, reform WTO, don't wait for the US. And maybe next few years, US will come back. But in the meantime, we're already paralyzed for several years. Let's continue. So that's just for the WTO reform. But also on the who blink first, that's an interesting question. I saw the US Commerce Secretary saying on the television, saying, okay, we have some intermediary middle person are talking. I just noticed, former Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson was in town. We met Vice Premier He Lifeng, and also we see John Staunton was in town, met Vice Premier He Lifeng. So they do have people communicating. But also, we look for the new ambassador, Purdue, come to Beijing as soon as possible. Ambassador Shefeng already returned to the United States. So he was coming back for the meetings in Beijing, and then he's back already. So I think those channels are open. And certainly, absolutely, I think when things cool down, people will start talking. But also they feel I'm sure there's a lot of pressure, like as I said, iPhones, Teslas, and all those 100, 200 billion products is already suffering. So I'm sure we'll see things cooling down as well. I said, CCG actually going to the United States next week. We're having a think tank group going to the United States next week. We're going to explore what are the possibilities as well. So let's have another final round of questions, and before we close, yeah. So okay, we have one person at the back, and also Ambassador von Luxembourg. Yeah.
Thank you, Jens Hildebrand from BSF. I was wondering, maybe that's a question more to DG Chen, because the US announced exemptions for electronics in the trade conflict. What about China's position? Is there any hope that there will be exemptions on some products? I can speak for the petrochemical industry.
What's the company? Maybe report.
BASF chemical company.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So on petrochemicals, obviously LPG, 60% of all LPG imported to China comes from the US. And now we have 125% tariffs on it. So the question is there also some leeway to exemptions?
Okay, you ask us for DJ Chen, maybe you can answer that.
Whoever.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for organizing this event. I would like to add my voice to those of my European colleagues. I think it's not a surprise that you have so many European ambassadors here, given the steep interest we have in this, and obviously Luxembourg as one of the most open economies in the world, we have a very strong interest in this. Maybe two questions. One, I would like to go back to Director General Chen. I noticed with great interest the description that you gave on the impacts of the recent Trumpian decisions on the Global South, and you mentioned Africa. A very concrete question, does China plan any further reach out to some of these countries, maybe in supporting them when it would come to negotiations, etc., and thereby strengthening its outreach and its role to the Global South? Because obviously, I think we are all concerned, besides trade, the role that trade and also remittances play in development of the Global South, in addition to ODA. So this would be my first question. My second question is a subject of a lot of personal interest, and we've discussed last time in this room. And it goes to the two distinguished speakers. Do you think that you mentioned China is safe? Do you think that nonetheless the current trade spat between the US and China is going to further accelerate reforms? Maybe I said last time, maybe some timid reforms in terms of opening up, further opening up, and also in terms of relaunching internal consumption. Do you think that those reforms may be accelerated as a result of these trade dispute? Thank you very much.
Yeah, we just got one more question. Yeah, okay. There's two gentlemen there, the last, okay.
Yeah, I'm speaking on behalf of the European Chamber of Commerce, and I mean, most of our member companies are multinational companies, just like BASF, and they are, of course, hit like on all fronts, like from tariffs from the United States, but also from counter tariffs from China. So my question would go also to Director General Chen, because I mean, China, as retaliation, I mean, not only imposed counter tariffs, but also like, you know, utilizes other instruments like export controls. So my question would be, I mean, because those measures are not like targeted only at the US, so do you take any like proactive measures to avoid, you know, like that other trade partners and companies like from the European Union are collateral damage in that?
Okay, our Japanese friend from Jetro, yes. The last question, okay.
So one question and two comments. One question is first about WTO. I totally agree as an old WTO hand that WTO is very important and the multilateral trading system is very important. But having said that, I'm somewhat skeptical whether using the dispute settlement system in this case is going to be helpful for the WTO as a system. We need to find a way to try to maintain the system rather than put too much stress on the system. That's my personal opinion. I would like to ask the commentators whether they don't feel that way or whether they think that the dispute settlement will be truly helpful in solving the problem at hand in this case. Two comments. First is we have an upset giant in the room. Don't you feel that you need to have a better understanding of the concerns that they have and to try to find a pragmatic solution to the issue? So that's probably one comment I may have personally. And the third one is along the lines of the ambassador. He termed it as a who blinks first game. Some people call it a chicken game, but maybe with a very big change in thinking, one might think of it as an adult game. Who is more adult in this case? So at some point in time, of course, as Dr. Chen said, in this case, our people were saying, for the time being, it's maybe a time to wait and see what happens. But at some point in time, there may be a timing where you might want to say, oh, this is an adult game. So being the adult, we might want to start discussions first. So that's a personal comment.
Okay, thank you. Let's be adult. Professor Tree, please. We'll finish soon and we'll take a group photo.
I think most, and actually just now, most of the questions are related with the relationship between China and all the other countries. So if I missed some questions, please remind me. Okay. For developing countries, Global South, including African countries, okay, China has already done some opening activity since last year, recently, and I think China is going to open more to Global South. For example, last year, at the end of last year, China announced that we will grant 43 least developed countries 0 tariff rate for all 100% tariff lines. And last year, China signed a framework agreement with more than 20 African countries. That was the framework, and I think some kind of detailed agreements, trade agreements and investment agreements will follow. And in those kind of agreements, I think China will grant more favorable treatment to other African countries. And we have done the unilateral opening, the automatic opening or some kind of reciprocal opening, and we have all kinds of these kind of plan going on. Just several days ago, for the trade and service area, China has just announced a program to do more opening, and I think more than around 10 cities has included in that program. They will done some kind of more opening up policy, I think, very soon. So facing this kind of problem, China will, I think, will deepen our reform program as well, including the reform of state-owned enterprises, including the reform of fair competition rules, and especially encourage private companies to play a bigger role in the development of our economy. Okay, so so for other countries, for developed countries, I think we are totally, agree with you that we understand that you have your concerns. For example, recently, China and the EU is negotiating on the price commitment mechanism on the EV cars. Okay, if we do this kind of price commitment, that means the export order will be better, right? It will solve the concern from the EU part in some degree. I think we can do this kind of negotiation as long as we can negotiate on an equal position. For example, several years ago, China had some kind of disputes with Australia. And we solved all these disputes within the framework of WTO. And yes, there are anti-dumping cases. I would like to raise another question, another issue, for example, Canada. Canada, at the moment, we know that we have some kind of disagreement with Canada, right? For Canada, I think we can solve this kind of a problem in the WTO as well. They have the multi-party arrangements, right? So as long as we use the WTO mechanism, we can have the results of these disputes.
Okay.
Canada, actually, Canada, for example, in the history, Canada altogether, launched altogether 84 cases of anti-dumping cases against China. And China launched altogether 4 cases against Canada. So for this kind of practice, anti-dumping practice, anti-subsidy practice, when we respond, we will respond, okay, in a reasonable way, okay? So because this mechanism, they are allowed by WTO. We will look at the technical details of this kind of investigation program, and if we have some kind of issue about that, we can negotiate and we can discuss. But for those kind of totally discriminatory tariff without any proper investigation process, I think China will retaliate immediately.
好的
Okay, thank you.
对，马老师再讲讲，我们就结束。
So regarding the China Global South cooperation in WTO, so I have some words. When I used to work in African countries for many years, I remember once a time my counterpart in my local official economic official minister told me that when we saw you big economic powers fight each other in WTO, so we found some disappointment on this mechanism. So how should our developing countries, how should our African countries be more confident to the multilateralism and the WTO? So what I'm thinking is we should, as the big economies, as the important members of the WTO, each of us, we should uphold this multilateralism. And also we think, besides this, we think China and the European Union, on this issue we have some common ground. So we should work together to cooperate, push forward the multilateralism in the world trade rules, and to safeguard the WTO's functions. Thank you. Yeah.
Great. So on that note, we're going to conclude today's lunch. It's almost time, and I really appreciate all of you. This is probably our largest VIP luncheon held by CCG, and we want to thank all the ambassadors, all the councillors, deputy heads of missions, multinational representative chambers, journalism, and of course we also thank, today we have attended by representative from MOFCOM, MFA, State Information Office, and thank all of them very, very much. And so let's have a group photo, and we're going to conclude. Thank you very much.